When you think of pyramid workers, you probably imagine starving slaves dragging enormous stones under the scorching Egyptian sun. But ancient evidence tells a different story. These were not broken men barely surviving. They were among the best fed workers of the ancient era. Forget dry crumbs and filthy water. These laborers enjoyed wholesome meals that would astonish even modern day athletes. From dense and high calorie bread loaves to liters of traditional beer, their diet was not just about survival, it was about energy, power, and pride. Archaeologists have discovered evidence from bones and old kitchens that unveils a stunning reality. The builders of Egypt's greatest marvels had a better diet than the majority of people in the ancient era. What exactly did they eat? And in what way did the food help them in moving stones as heavy as trucks? Today, we will deep dive into the actual menu of the pyramid builders, and it's far more surprising than you might think. To understand what filled their bowls and fueled their bodies, it's crucial to know who these pyramid laborers actually were. How long did they live? Because their meals were not just focused on nutrition, they were part of a larger system built around skill, community, and careful organization. To fully understand the significance of their food, we first need to look at their everyday life and the world they worked in. The real pyramid builders. For centuries, the image of the pyramid builders was shaped by myths, chains, whips, and unstoppable suffering under Pharaoh's orders. However, modern archaeology presents a different story. These were not enslaved people forced to build marvels. They were skilled laborers, artisans, and seasonal workers, with many valuing their craftsmanship. Actually, the labor force responsible for the pyramids was carefully structured. Estimates indicate that approximately 20,000 to 30,000 men were employed in rotating shifts. Some were dedicated professionals such as stonecutters, metal workers, and architects. Others arrived from agricultural areas during the Nile's flood period when farming stopped. These laborers received payments through goods such as food, shelter, clothing, and even health care. They lived in well-structured workers' villages close to the pyramid locations, similar to the famous one discovered near the Giza Plateau. The village had streets, sleeping areas, bakeries, breweries, and a cemetery. These were the signs that these individuals were not useless workers but respected participants. Their work was exhausting. Lifting limestone blocks, pulling granite slabs, and working in the desert heat demanded extraordinary strength. Yet they were not alone. Groups were split into squads with titles such as the Friends of Khufu or Drunkards of Menkaure, and they frequently left behind their graffiti, joking about their work. There existed a sense of friendship, pride, and a feeling of purpose. This organization focused not only on logistics but also on maintaining people's health, motivation, and vitality. Food was essential in that context. Meals were not a luxury. They were necessary and intricately integrated into the workers' everyday routine. They were meant to drive them forward, stone by stone, day in and day out. To truly understand the significance of their diet, we must dive further into the core of their existence, their households, their habits, and their everyday patterns. Daily life in Workers' Village. Just beyond the shadow of the Great Pyramid are the remnants of an ancient village, a place that thrived with life, sweat, and rhythm. This was not a temporary camp. It was a complete community designed to assist the thousands of laborers who moved and carved Egypt's massive stone giants. The village found at Giza featured wide streets, rectangular structures, and well-planned quarters. Excavations reveal barracks-type accommodations where laborers probably slept in rows, side by side. There were extensive bakeries, breweries, and storage facilities, indicating a city built with planning and permanence. These workers followed a strict schedule every day. They awoke early, consumed a hearty meal of bread and beer, and reported to their designated teams. Some moved stones, others shaped blocks. Work was divided, and groups had names, positions, and commanders similar to a military organization. Aside from work, there was culture. Graffiti displayed on surfaces reveals humor, nicknames, and even competition among teams. Graves of superiors close to the location indicate that certain laborers were respected enough to have proper burials with offerings. Water was supplied to these villages routinely. Special rooms might have served as medical stations. There were even facilities for processing meat and fish, a service rarely accessible to poor Egyptians. This indicates a workforce that was not only physically maintained but also socially supported. The existence of animal bones, fire pits, and grain silos indicates large-scale food manufacturing. Everything from shelter to food to equipment was organized in this system. These were not nameless workers. They were involved in one of the most ambitious human efforts in history, and their lives mirrored that scale. To fully understand how this system survived, it's time to explore their food, because food held great significance in ancient Egypt. What was on the menu? So what exactly did the workers of the pyramids eat? Unexpectedly, their meals were substantial, reliable, and full of energy. Bread was the central point of every meal. Not the soft white variety familiar to us now, but heavy, round loaves crafted from emmer wheat and barley. These ancient grains were manually ground using stone tools, which frequently resulted in small bits of grit in the flour. The grit gradually damaged their teeth, yet the bread was nourishing and essential. Together with bread, laborers consumed large quantities of beer. However, it wasn't just a drink, it was more like a liquid meal. Thick, cloudy, and nutrient-rich, it was created from fermented barley and sweetened with honey or dates. Estimates indicate that a worker might receive as much as 4 liters of beer daily. This beer provided energy, hydration, and a touch of comfort during extended dusty hours in the sun. Onions and garlic were also essential items. These were more than just flavor boosters. They held genuine worth. The Egyptians thought these vegetables provided strength, prevented sickness, and fueled the body. Workers frequently obtained daily portions of garlic and onions as part of their payment. Other essential items were dates, figs, and lentils, typical plant foods that added fiber and sweetness to the dishes. They were simple to keep and packed with nutrients. Salted fish was commonly consumed, particularly by those living close to the Nile. It was captured in large quantities, seasoned with salt for preservation, and delivered to the work sites. Collectively, this diet formed a potent mix of carbohydrates, minerals, and plant-derived protein. These were necessary for intense physical work. This was an exceptionally calorie-dense diet for its era. These foods were selected purposefully. They were carefully chosen, prepared, and distributed as a component of a system that kept the entire pyramid-building laborers working smoothly. Protein power, meat and fish. Though bread and beer were the staples, protein-rich foods were essential for maintaining the strength of the pyramid laborers. Interestingly, meat was not as rare as one might assume, particularly for government-funded labor crews. Animal bones discovered close to the workers' village at Giza reveal a fascinating story. Cattle, sheep, and goats were regularly slaughtered to provide food for groups of workers. This was particularly frequent during significant work periods when energy demands were highest. Beef held the highest value, while goat and mutton were more economical and easier to find. Evidence of extensive butchering activities indicates that meat was not limited to royalty. Team leaders of higher rank probably got larger shares, but regular workers could also obtain meat, especially during festivals or government-sponsored banquets. Fish served as another significant source of protein. The Nile was abundant with species such as tilapia, catfish, and perch. They were frequently either salted or dried for preservation, and then transported to work sites in baskets. Laborers could consume it either cooked or blended into stews with lentils and herbs. Sometimes their meals also included eggs and dairy. Chickens were not common at that time, but ducks and geese were raised. Milk was probably transformed into cheese or yogurt, which are simpler to preserve in a warm climate. Meat wasn't a regular staple for all, yet it was a component of a larger system that recognized the significance of nourishment. For people moving multi-ton stones, every bite counted. This combination of bread, beer, meat, and fish created a complete system, one that nourishes muscles, motivated minds, and respected labor. However, beyond just survival, it represented a community that recognized food as energy, reward, and strength. Egyptian beer, not just a drink. For the ancient Egyptians, beer was more than just a beverage. It was an essential part of everyday life. For the laborers who constructed the pyramids, beer was neither a luxury nor a reward. It was part of their salaries, their food, and their survival. But forget the picture of a thick, bubbly glass. Egyptian beer was thick, cloudy, and filling. It was similar to a barley porridge that could be sipped or slurped. It was created from crushed barley bread, which was soaked in water and then fermented using wild yeast. Sometimes dates or honey were added to enhance the sweetness of the mixture. The old drink was filled with calories, nutrients, and carbohydrates. It gave hydration under the scorching desert sun and served as a rapid energy booster. Employees might get 2 to 4 liters of beer daily based on their tasks and workload. That was more than a beverage, that was energy. Notably, beer was safer to drink than water from rivers. The fermentation process eliminated numerous harmful bacteria, rendering it a safer choice during an era when clean drinking water was rare. The importance of beer went far beyond the work sites. It was present in ceremonial rites, offerings, and tomb paintings. Gods like Hathor and Sekhmet were associated with beer, and festivities frequently featured large-scale drinking celebrations. The afterlife was imagined with beer included in everlasting celebrations. Brewing was so vital that significant breweries have been found close to pyramid locations, constructed to provide laborers with their daily supplies. These were not minor operations, they were large-scale operations. They were evidence of beer's significance for ancient Egyptians. Beer was energy, reward, hydration, and culture, all within a single jar. Surprising ingredients. When picturing ancient cuisine, it's easy to think of tasteless, monotonous dishes. However, the workers of the pyramid enjoyed a surprisingly diverse and well-planned menu. This menu relied on ancient food techniques and clever ingredients to maintain interest in nutrition. While simple, the dishes frequently featured spices such as salt, coriander, cumin, and fenugreek. These served more than just as flavor boosters. Certain ones possessed healing attributes, like reducing inflammation, aiding digestion, and even helping in food preservation. Garlic and onions, staples in their everyday meals, served as natural antibiotics as well. Massive quantities of clay ovens, large grinding stones, and bread molds were utilized. Laborers produced flatbreads and robust loaves in groups. Massive grinding basins were used for the preparation of flour for thousands of people. Fermentation was another important method. In addition to beer, Egyptians also fermented various foods, producing soft cheeses and pickled vegetables that survived better in warm climates. Food was kept in clay containers, sealed with a mixture of mud and straw. Due to these techniques, laborers were able to obtain food that was quite safe and reliable. It was a significant achievement in ancient times. Lotus roots, watermelon seeds, and carob were also eaten from time to time. These components provided natural sugars, nutritious fats, and fiber. Pyramid laborers didn't just eat for survival. They utilized an intelligent, efficient method that maximized resources, maintained nutrients, and embraced the full range of nature's offerings. Behind the glamour of the pyramids was a powerful engine. Food. Bread, beer, meat, and traditional food technology fueled history's most remarkable workforce. Behind each block was a bite. Like this dive into the Egyptian meal, subscribe for more such stories and hit that notification bell. Thank you.